Hello everyone. So I wanted to just share with you guys everything that you will need in order to paint with me, because this spirit animal series that we're going to be painting is going to be potent, it's going to be powerful, it's going to be profound, and I'm hoping and trusting that it's going to uplift your life and your creative practice as an artist. So let's get into it. Right. So I think I've surrounded myself here with everything that we will need. So I'm just going to work from the top of the pile, if that makes any sense to you. I think I'm going to be using my wet palette, and this is my self-created wet palette. So you can just check out my YouTube channel, my TikTok channel. I think I've shared this video pretty much everywhere, but I will also add it to the playlist for this particular project. So what I've got here is just a Tupperware container that is not too deep, so you can see it's shallow, and you will need some kitchen towel and some wax paper, and this way you can dispense your paints for your project and not worry about your paints drying out on you. Now I literally dispensed some of these paints a week ago, and it's still wet. So I promise you, having a wet palette is definitely going to be saving you time and money and paint, and it will just make it a lot easier for you as we paint and go through the process. But of course you are welcome to use any palette that you feel comfortable in using. Alrighty then, moving on. The next thing you will need is a pen and some paper, or maybe even your art journal, because we will be exploring some questions that our painting is going to bring up for us, that I want you to look at and explore, just to sort of see how this can apply to you. And I'm really hoping that you're going to gain some new insights and clarity in your life and in your journey. So let's go forward. Okay, so definitely a kitchen towel and some wax paper. That is optional if you're going to be doing the wet palette. So I'm just moving things to the side so I don't miss out on anything. So I've got just a water spray bottle. This is just a bottle I'm recycling. So you can use any spray bottle. This is very useful if your paint is drying out on you, or if you want to extend your blending time, or it's a dry atmosphere. So a water spray is definitely a must. Then I've got here, oh wait, okay, yeah, well, we've got some acrylic matte glazing medium. So any acrylic medium will work for you. It is your option whether you want to use a matte or a gloss finish. There's usually those two options. And I find that this medium really helps me to make glazes. It helps me to seal layers that I don't want to move. It can be a glue if you want to add collage elements to your painting. Really, the options that an acrylic medium gives you is endless. So it's definitely an important one on the list. Alrighty, I'm going to be using some plastic cups like this. I like to sort of make my glazes in little cups like these, simply because you want to add some water or glazing medium, and it might run around in your wet palette. So this is a great sort of tool just to make some glaze mixes for yourself. So we'll definitely be playing with that as well. Then I've got here a pipette. It just helps me to draw up water from my water buckets. So that is always a very helpful tool, especially when you make some mixes for your painting. I always have 2 canisters of water to my left. You will always hear me rinse out my brushes and doing my cleanup session on that. So one of the buckets I use for clean water and one bucket I use to rinse out my dirty brush. All right. I've got here a sharpener, always useful for when your pencil goes blunt on you. Alrighty, what else have I got here? I've got a ruler, and I think a ruler is going to help us in gridding our little sort of painting that we want to do on our canvas. So a ruler, and you can decide whether you want to work in inches or centimeters or both. That's really up to you. So I'm going to put that aside. Okay. Then I would really suggest that you get a white chalk pencil. You can also just use ordinary blackboard chalk, but I find them to be a bit thick and too chalky. So for this particular project and going forward, I'll be using my whiteboard chalk pencil in order to do my line work. Just putting things out of the way that I know that I've dealt with it. Okay, you're going to need a variety of brushes. Definitely maybe a filbert, and this particular one is a number 6. It's not massive, it really is medium to small in this filbert, but one of my favorite brushes. I've got here a nice scruffy kind of round brush. These ones, again, a number 6. And you know, numbers in brushes is pretty much up to the set that you're buying. So even though I say number 6, it might not be the same in the range that you have, but you know, a brush that you can scumble and scratch with and just do some dry brushing. And then I've got here just a round brush. This is a number 8, and it's got a nice toe to it, so this is going to be helping us to create some of the feather marks that we will be painting. But really, any brush that you feel comfortable, or brushes, I'm sure that you have a number of brushes in your studio already that you can use and that we can get into. Alrighty then. Now before we get into our reference material, let's run over some of the paints that I'll be working with. Okay, so I've got here in tubes and in bottles. You will definitely need an orange, a cadmium orange or a bright orange. I've got it in 2 different sort of brands here, but orange is really featuring quite a bit here on our reference material, so we'll definitely be needing that. Next up, you will need a cadmium yellow. Look for the medium tone, because the light one is going to be too light and the dark one or the deep one is going to be too deep. So a medium cadmium yellow is going to give us the strength that we need for the yellows on our image. Then I have here a bit of a specialty color. This is from Lucas Kroll. It is called Fern Green, but really you could also just be looking at a yellow green, and I mean, you don't have to have it. You can make your own yellow green by adding a bit of yellow to whatever green you've got, but I felt that, you know, it just makes life a little bit easier if you've got the exact color that or at least the correct hue to sort of apply in our painting, because these greens are present over here. Okay, so that fern green is definitely a yellow green. Okay, then running through everything, we definitely need a magenta. There are plenty of magenta moments in our reference material, so a magenta will definitely be required. Then we also need a permanent violet or a dark sizzling violet, some kind of violet. As you can see, there are some violets in here as well, and we will need the violet just to sort of tint some of the magenta. So violet. Then I've got here a turquoise. There is plenty of turquoise in our owl's feathers, so we will definitely be needing that. If you don't have a turquoise, you can always mix phthalo blue and viridian green or phthalo green and create your own turquoise. That is of course up to you, This one, I must say, has an opacity to it of Lucas Krill, so it covers really well. If you're going to be making your own turquoise using the phthalo green and phthalo blue, then those will be a little bit more translucent, just so that you're aware of the difference in the paints that we might be using. Then I've got here cobalt blue. I think the blues that we have here is definitely more towards the cobalt side, which is like a, I don't know, a medium blue in the sense it's not very dark, but it's also not very light. It's not too warm or cold for me. But yes, cobalt blue is the one that I think will add to our painting. Then I also added a sap green because there are some beautiful greens here, and I want to make my life easier with sort of just painting with greens. Obviously, you can mix your own green again by using your blue and your yellow. Just do some test samples before the time with the colors that you've got. It's okay if your colors don't match mine exactly, because it's more about our journey and the colors that you have in your studio or the paint supplies that you have in your studio. Really begin with what you have and go from there. Don't let it stop you if you don't have the exact shades or the exact brands as me, because that really in the end is irrelevant. Okay, so then last but not least, I've got here a lamp black. So any black will do. I just happen to have lamp black. We need black for creating some shadow shades, and also for some darker tones in order to just mute some of those colors. And then we will definitely need a titanium white, because this is going to help us mix all of the lighter shades around the nose or the beak of the owl and any of the shades of the colors that we need as a tint or a tone. So white will definitely make our life easier. Then, very important, we need a black geisha. Now, any brand of black geisha will do. Or if you don't want a geisha, you are welcome to just use black paint, or you can also buy your canvas already prepared with a black geisha. So whatever works for you. If it's more convenient for you to just get a canvas that's already black, that's a great way to start. But I must say, going forward, for this particular spirit animal series that we'll be painting, we will be using a black background quite a bit. It just gives us that depth, and you will notice that all of the color that we're going to be playing with is just going to pop on top of a black canvas. So you are welcome to use a white canvas, but we're going to have a completely different end result, and you might struggle with the white canvas. So I want to encourage you to invest in a black geisha, or just get a prepared black canvas for you to work on. Okay. Then, as we get into this painting, before we talk about the reference material, we will need a black square canvas. Again, you can pick the size that you feel comfortable with, but this particular canvas of mine is 11.7 inches both ways, and in centimeters it's 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. So that is the canvas size that I'm working on. Now if you're a real beginner, you can literally choose to get a canvas the size of my reference material, and the reference material ended up being printed, so it's 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters, or it is 8 inches by 8 inches. So if you want to go the easy route, you can buy a canvas that is literally the size of the reference material, and in that way I will show you an easy method that you can literally trace this directly on your canvas, making drawing a lot easier, because I know not everyone is into drawing. I've opted for a little bit of a bigger canvas simply because I think it will record beautifully. We have clear space for me to play in, so I will have to upscale this picture, and I will show you how to do that. Then, last but not least, we will definitely be needing the reference material. Now, this is copyrighted by me. It belongs to Gideon's Light, and I give my Patreons and people that have purchased this tutorial and class permission to print and use this material for the purposes of the class. Thereafter, it is my property, and you can obviously then change it if you want to sell your art, but this is my property, so please respect that. Thank you very much. So what I've done is, you will notice I've printed it in full color, and I've printed it in a black and white. Now, the reason why I printed in black and white as well is because this is really helpful to evaluate the value of the color. In other words, how dark or how bright or light is the color. And I think that's one of the things that beginners struggle with quite a bit, because we tend to want to use the colors straight from the tube. And if you use your color wheel, which is always a very valuable tool, you will notice on the color wheel there are value scales for you. And black being value number 1, that's the darkest value that you can have in your painting. Nothing darker than black, right? And then on the opposite end of the scale is 10, and that is white. So that is pure white. So if you basically use the value scale of your color wheel, you'll be able to notice exactly how deep or how light a particular color is. You'll be able to notice how deep the shadows are and how bright the highlights are, you know. So you can determine exactly how bright or how dark to mix your color for that particular part of the painting. So a color wheel is always a yes on the requirement list. Okay, so I will share with you guys this image both in our group on Patreon. I will also share it as a post only for paid Patreons, so you can check those 2 areas on Patreon just to get the original image. And then I printed it out on an A4 paper in full color at a laser printer store, and I asked them to center the image on my A4. So you have another option. If you want to use a bigger canvas, you can always ask them to print this image over multiple paper, or on an A3 or A2 sheet of paper, depending on what's available where you live. Sorry guys, knocking my microphone. And then what you can do is, you can literally, if your paper is the same size then as your canvas that you decide to paint, you can then basically use carbon or just a pencil. You can use a pencil, or you can use a carbon stick like that. And I prefer quite a dark one, so in the B range, because it's softer. And then you can literally color in your entire paint, or what you would call it, reference material, with your carbon, and do it quite dark and intense. And then what can happen is, when you bring your reference material to your canvas, let's say for example that the canvas is the size of this owl, then you can literally then sit and trace each of these little feathers and elements in our painting. And when you lift this up, you should then have a transfer on your canvas, making life a lot easier. So those are for beginners that want to get this image right and ready to go without stressing too much about drawing. But for the rest of us that likes a bit of a challenge, we are going to be sort of roughing it out and just getting a rough idea of where the elements are, and we're going to be painting them in. And I'm going to be teaching you a method that I quite enjoy, forgive me, and that is to work initially with titanium white on the black canvas, and we're basically just going to paint in each of these feathers using white paint on the black canvas, placing our elements, the feather, the eye, the beak, whatever. And just with directionality and brush application, we will roughly get the placement for all of the feathers. It's really not necessary to copy every single feather. It really is more important to capture the essence, the feeling, the texture, the color. And I'm going to be showing you an easy way to do just that. Okay, so you must just check this list. I will also type out this list on the description of this video. It will also then feature on the description of the playlist of this entire class. So whenever you watch a video and you just want to check in on the supply list, you can just click on more and you should be able to find all the description of art materials that I've used and any links that I sort of think you might need if you want to dive deeper with me, and that should really make your life easier. So get your art supplies ready, print out the reference material, decide on the size of your canvas, paint it black with your gesso or get a black canvas, because in our next episode we will be getting into our owl medicine. I'm going to be playing a lot during this series with this beautiful deck card by Colette Baron Reed, and it's her The Spirit Animal Oracle. I'll be using this quite a bit, and in our next video I'm going to be sharing her owl wisdom with you guys that really got me going on this particular sort of spirit guide energy. And I must say, the owl has arrived in its masterful time. I did plan to do this class last month, but the universe had other plans. And I'm actually glad for that matter, because in the meantime, this idea got time to sort of grow in my spirit. And I'm very grateful for the owl medicine that helped me get some clarity during my recent, what shall I call it? Introspection, reevaluation, and sort of looking at my channels and where I'm putting my energy and effort. And I'm really excited to go forward using the owl wisdom to sort of let go of things in my life that no longer serve me. I think it's very easy to sort of just go with the flow, be in a comfort zone. We figure things out and then we try things and it works for that moment, and then we sort of become comfortable in that and then we stick to it. And the problem is sometimes is that we outgrow an idea, or it's time for us to expand. And I know for us as artists, it is very important always to draw that metaphor between our artwork and the metaphor that connects with our life. And that is where I, as a creatively fit coach, enjoy to sort of play a lot in using the symbology as a reminder to reflect on our life. And I think the owl comes around in order to pluck out elements that is almost like a plague. Like the owls is really helping to control a plague of mice or rats, as an example, or really just to pluck out those elements that's festering and that's no longer serving us. But an owl also helps us to see in the dark. So it really is a night predator, and it's using its eyesight, its ear, what do you call it? Its hearing ability. It's able to listen to the finest of rustling of leaves and of sounds of of sort of nature and pick up exactly where its prey is, pinpointed with such accuracy that it's able to literally launch itself without making a sound from its vantage point, and to dive in on its prey and grab it with absolute success without any light, for that matter, maybe some moonlight, but it really is able to tune in on a lot of sort of hidden aspects. And I think for me as a coach, that is what I'll be playing with a lot during this painting session with you guys. So we will explore some questions, some reflections, and really work on that clarity. And I want to invite you to just open yourself up to this whole experience. It's not just learning about art and process, but while we're working with art and process, we are always reflecting on our lives and where this metaphor can be applied to our lives so that we can live happy lives, more fulfilled lives, and learn to let go of the things that keep us back, that keep us entrapped, and to recognize some limiting beliefs and ideas that might prevent you from stepping into the life that you dream of and that you desire with your heart. So that is what I'm going to be sharing with you guys. I'm really excited to get into this owl medicine. Okay, so that's basically everything that I'm going to be using. If I add anything else to this material list as I'm developing this class, I will just add it to that written sort of list, and I'll mention it in that particular video when we get into it. So I'm really excited to see you guys next as we get into our owl painting.